Hi, this is Jan Reardon here, representing the Jennifer Reardon Foundation, which I have the absolute pleasure of being able to represent and keep my sister-in-law Jennifer Reardon's mantra of being kind, loving, caring, and sharing right in the forefront here in Vermont, definitely out in Albuquerque, and as we're finding throughout the United States and actually even globally. So it's heartwarming, and under the circumstances, it's as good as it can be. Without her, to still have her presence and feel her spirit means a lot to us. So that's the gist of the show, is to be able to bring people to the table that support the four pillars of our family foundation, the Jennifer Reardon Foundation. The things most near and dear to Jen's heart: women's empowerment, financial literacy, early childhood education, and community vitality. So this is community vitality at its best once we get talking and people can find out. I am so excited to be here with the two of you. John Cronin is a great friend of mine, and I'm so happy to have you here. And then Ken, just meeting you for the first time, and it's such a pleasure. And you're the marketing lead for the company that we're going to be talking about, harvestweb.org, which John is the founder of.
Exactly.
And I've had the pleasure years back of meeting John over at Whitecap in Williston, where he had his business iCapital. And my understanding is 1,500 patents have gone through under your guidance at IP Capital. So if we could start perhaps by, number one, thank you for being here, but introducing yourself in your way, and talk a little bit about that if you would, and then we'll go to you, Ken, and talk about the marketing lead part of Harvest Web.
Absolutely.
Well, sure, thanks. My company IP Capital has been around for 25 years, and we've helped tens of thousands of inventors invent. Myself has 1,500 patents and applications.
So it's all about inventing.
It's all about inventing. And Harvest Web got started with this sort of flash, I guess, where I've been always interested in trying to feed the hungry, even since I was a little kid. When I grew up without, a lot of means, that always meant something to me. So as I started to invent all sorts of stuff about 5 or 6 years ago, I started thinking, well, why can't, feeding the hungry, why can't you invent feeding the hungry? Mm-hmm. And we started off thinking it was a new business model, that maybe there was a way to have charities be self-sustaining, meaning that instead of raising money every year for a charity, was there a way to develop a charity that could actually self-sustain? So that gave birth to kind of the Harvest Web. I mean,
how long ago did this all start? I know you said when you were younger you wanted to do this, but truly begin the, implementing different things to have it happen. How many years are we talking here?
Well, it's 5 years now, and I'm not ashamed to say that we had 4 or 5 false starts, because when you're inventing something, obviously your first idea out of the box doesn't work. So we've had a lot of failures. We start off trying to grow hydroponic gardens to make money, and then use the proceeds to feed the hungry. That was a
brilliant idea, but
sometimes we try to connect grocery stores with churches that had food drives.
Right.
And try to automate that. That didn't work. We tried to figure out a way to automate the whole cycle between givers and churches and grocery stores and food shelves and all that. That just became too complex. So we finally simplified this down with the help of the team to try to figure out a way to connect directly anybody who wants to donate directly to a food shelf and give the food shelf the money, rather than getting involved in all the stuff in the middle. So that's kind of how it now is.
That's what we're going to find out more about. And before we go over to you, Ken, let me just ask you a couple of questions, John. So how would a food shelf become part of this? Is that because, say I want to donate to the Essex food shelf. Is Essex there? No, maybe not. So how do they get involved?
Well, initially what we're doing is the marketing to go to food shelves to explain the program.
Okay.
And say, how would you like a check every time we can get one?
Right.
They don't seem to resist that. So we have a couple of food shelves right now that Ken will talk about. But in our website, we have a way where anybody could plug in a food shelf.
Oh.
So that we can, that's automated.
Fantastic. Okay. So nice segue over to Ken here. If we can talk about these food shelves and how you have approached them and how the response has been, and even explain, if you would, the whole process.
Okay. Let me try to do that.
Thank you.
So what we do is we've tried to establish a network for food pantries and food shelves. As we looked out into I'll call it the market of food pantries and food shelves, we realized that all of them had two things that they were concerned about. One was donations, usually money or food, and the other was volunteers. We have volunteers on hold for right now, and we're working on donations.
I see.
And so what we've done is established harvestweb.org, which is a website that allows you to donate to a food shelf of your choice. If your food shelf is not in our stream of food shelves, so you go to a little checkbox and you find it.
Yeah, he's got the
If it-
website up.
Oh, there it is.
there we
Thank you,
go.
Kevin. He told
There's
me
a
he could do that.
locator, right.
So there's two tools. You can see the locator. Could you click on the green locator button there, Kevin? So there's a national map.
Ooh, okay. Well, that answers that question.
Yeah, and that was provided
I
to
love
us
it.
by another organization. We're very grateful for that because it would have taken us 150 years
exactly.
to do that. So there's a number of local food shelves in every community really throughout the country. And then there's a second channel. Kevin, if you could go back to that one step back. Let's see if we can do that. I'll talk it through anyway while he's working
Great.
on that.
Yeah.
And that is called Recommend a Food Pantry.
Oh, okay.
So if you frequent a food pantry, either, thanks.
There it is, right down
Yeah,
below.
if you could just scroll down a little bit. There it
Oh,
is.
very nice.
So you
That's a
just-
great feature.
Exactly. You just fill in that form, and then we approach that food pantry. We say, you know, you have a client or you have somebody that's sympathetic to your organization. They've recommended that we reach out to you. And then the sign-up procedure is very, very easy. It's really one form. We need to ensure that food pantries are 501c3s because we're a 501c3.
Right.
Which of course is important.
Definitely.
Your donation is tax deductible. And we reach out to them and we say, would you like to join the network? And really, that all they have to do is fill out that form, sign it, and return it to us.
Okay. So Ken, what are the logistics? How does the food? I
does somebody do
is
that?
Bewitched here with a
Yeah,
twitch of the nose.
yeah,
Like,
that
where,
would
how
be
does
great,
this food?
yeah.
Is it, you know,
We recruited Elizabeth
teleported
Montgomery.
across? I've
Yeah.
seen the groceries
Well,
plan.
that's such an excellent question because that's where we made all the mistakes.
Okay.
We constantly try to figure out how to get some money to go buy the food, to
Right.
deliver it to the food
You're in
shelf,
charge
and all
of the
the rest.
grocery stores.
And with the brilliance of the team, the other volunteers, and Bill Peters, for instance, are running harvestweb.org.
Yes.
And some of the other volunteers like Charles Root and others, we got together as a team and recognized, you know, why can't we just do a one click, like Amazon digitized, you know, the retail space? Why can't we just figure out a way to get a donor to put their money directly, 100% directly to the food shelf?
Right.
Without anybody in the middle.
Right.
And the food shelf knows best what to order.
That community wants.
Yeah.
Exactly. And with their inventory at that
Because
time.
most people
fluctuates too.
most people that donate food will go to the grocery store and just pick up what they think they can do
Exactly. And
in
it
bulk,
might not
and that's
be
not healthy enough.
Right. Meeting
usually
the
for-
community's needs. Exactly.
And this keeps it neighbor to neighbor, which is something that we want.
Yes.
And the other things that we do that I think set us apart quite uniquely is we turn over money to the food shelves very, very fast. So we say give on Monday, it's at the food shelf on Thursday.
Very nice.
That, you know, if you give through a social media tool or something like that, it can be a fairly long process.
Oh, I'm
okay?
sure.
We do one other thing, though, that's we think is quite unique and really makes us distinctive, and that is we don't take anything from the donation. So if somebody gives $10, the food pantry gets $10.
Okay, so that you're segueing into my next question, where
Yeah.
how is this funded? How does this happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. One that we ask monthly. It's funded through a second channel,
Okay.
which is called Support Our Mission in the website.
Okay.
And so if people look and they love the idea and they want to support what we're doing, they can support at various levels.
Wonderful.
There
Oh,
it
I
is.
love it.
They can support us. There it is.
Oh, very nice.
So become a sustaining giver. So those odd numbers work out to about $250, $500, and $1,000 a year.
Per year.
And of course you can give at any level you want, like
love
anybody
it.
else. And those gifts, of course, are tax deductible. So as you would hope.
Right.
There is a checkbox just for kind of full disclosure. when you give a donation to a food pantry, you can check a box to pass along 6% to us.
Oh, that's a nice, great option.
but,
So it's the person's choice.
Exactly.
Right.
And one of the things that we believe about the whole process is that food pantries are just incredibly efficient in terms of your donation dollar.
Well-oiled machine.
Yeah,
it really,
exactly.
More businesses should be run
Exactly,
like that in the
exactly.
retail world, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if you give, it's truly a charity that if you give $20, you're giving a significant
and
amount.
That's unheard of.
Exactly.
Except for the Jennifer Reardon Foundation. My brother has the same exact philosophy, so I respect that entirely.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think you probably joke at the food store like I do. I walk out and I look in the bag, and the manager looks at me and I say, "Not bad. I got my $20 worth of food for $54 this week," right? And it's like that's the way it feels right now.
And that
right?
was just the eggs, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So, we live in a time when $20 through Harvest Web to a food pantry can be a meaningful difference.
And that in itself is the beautiful part of this. Where, obviously you want to, give as much as you can, but to know that $20 will make a difference feels good, because sometimes you give it's like, is this really going to, it could be $100 to a different organization, is this really going to matter? But here for $20, you could break down how many meals somebody will be able to have.
My son was telling me when he used it the first time that, he's in his 30s, and for people like him, just to figure out where to go and to donate.
Right.
Time, and then maybe have to research it, maybe have to go buy the food and all this stuff. And so one of the for instances is, say it's Thanksgiving, and you're just sitting there having a cup of coffee in the morning, and you say, I want to give something.
Right.
Exactly.
You just log on the website,
spur
which
of
is
the
a
moment.
mobile,
Right.
mobile website. You can just give $20 right there, and you're done.
Right.
And you don't have to
So
figure
nice and
anything else.
streamlined.
Exactly.
Yes.
One of our people, Bill, likes to say, "Give, click, go." Thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's fast and it's clean.
Which is so important,
Yeah,
as we know.
exactly.
Right.
Now, one of the things that we're doing is we're getting some other investors in, because that 6% is still 6%.
Exactly.
And that's covered, by other donations of high net worth people. So we've designed this so that it could be like a franchise. In other words, you could, say, be in Albuquerque.
Right.
And if you had just a modest amount of funds to supply some marketing, you can just get this website for free. And
Love it.
it's like a franchise.
great
So you
concept,
could
yes.
just start a charity.
Right.
Everything is done. You just need to
Right.
finance a little bit to get it going. You need a marketing person.
And then you'd have the rights to that territory.
yeah, they
It'd
would
still be
they-
part of our network. Yeah.
be part of our
Exactly.
network, but they could create their own sub-network.
Right.
Just like any franchise.
Right. Right. That's very interesting.
So we can, once this works, we can scale this globally.
Right,
That-
right.
that's the point of
I
this.
had noticed, in our notes here that we had talked about the fact that it will be global
Yeah.
someday, which makes perfect sense. I mean, of all things, to go global when it ties into food is a given.
Right, absolutely.
Let me see who gets my next question here. How many food shelves, you would probably know since you go to the food shelves directly, but how many are there in the network right now?
Oh, right now, just a handful.
Right.
We introduced our website at the end of October. So we've been sort of up and running
Even more
over a
recent
short
than
time.
I realized, yes.
I'm happy to tell you, though, that we've already delivered checks to food pantries already.
Fabulous.
And I think we're scheduled to deliver another one Monday. When we get our automation in place, then that'll happen electronically. And the upside of the automation is not to take people out of it, because frankly, I enjoy visiting the food pantries
Absolutely.
and seeing what's
Oh,
happening.
and have that relationship.
But it's to turn it fast and to keep our costs under control. So the difficult thing with a traditional charity is, as you scale it, you need more people. We've tried to design Harvest Web so that as we scale it, we don't have to add a lot of people. In other words, we don't
That's
have to
the
add a
model
lot
where
of
it's
overhead.
that core, and then it can just go
Exactly.
from there. And then earlier you had mentioned volunteers, and that's not a big part yet, but that I would imagine, end up being quite a need, no?
Yeah. Could I tell you about our people? Because that's my favorite part of the
Please,
company.
please.
So we're led by,
Peters?
you've mentioned Bill Peters. Bill, we've grown organically up to now. So Bill and I have about a 20-year history together.
Oh, very nice.
From my semiconductor years, Bill was a subcontractor to us, and we became good friends and So I think you can connect the dots from there.
Sure.
And then Charles Root was an employee of yours
Yep.
who's got a technology background, so he became a very natural fit for the technology piece of
course.
the website. And we originally were working on an app, which we haven't given up on yet.
Good.
We have a mobile-enabled app, a mobile-enabled website, but we'd like to still develop an
Sure.
app at some point in the future. That was a little bit prohibitive in terms of expense and that sort of thing. So I came along. Then Charles and Bill were already in place. I brought in a former coworker of mine named Brenda from Carl Sush years, and she actually, after Sush, she went to a small company up here, Cured Green Mountain.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And she became a very expert in software and project management, and so she was a perfect fit for what we needed.
And it's
And-
obviously a great team because I love the website and
Thank
it's
you.
so user friendly.
Thank you. So we say that we kind of, sometimes we analogize to being Vermont-based or New England-based. We analogize to for an all-wheel drive car going up a snowy hill,
Yes.
right? Until we had all four wheels going and driving, then we could move forward. We reached a sort of critical mass.
Yes.
And there's another aspect of that that I think is beautiful, and that's that at any given time, I have no idea which wheel has the most traction. It could be any of us. We're very cross-functional.
understand. Yes.
We're very devoted to the mission.
Go left, you go
so-
right, and go backwards,
Exactly.
yeah,
We
forward.
communicate with each other a lot,
Right.
both on a business basis and on a friendship basis.
Very nice.
And so working, it's like a dream. I mean,
That's beautiful.
It is
As
a
it should
beautiful
be.
thing.
Right.
What was nice is to find the volunteers, and then we got to the point where we could pay them, and now we're bringing on more volunteers. So it's kind of nice to have a core team.
Exactly, right from the beginning of implementation.
Yeah.
So this might be a ridiculous question, but is there anything like this anywhere else in New England or in the United
Can I
States?
answer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But that's what I'm wondering. I mean, obviously, I know you're covered
Well, I
because
mean,
of the patents.
We did sort of research on this when we first started, and we didn't find anything like this current model.
Right. And I
It's
was
so
just wondering more
simple.
about the concept versus, I mean, you are so in depth as far as the technology part of it and how seamless it is that it's sort of like Uber versus a taxi cab. You know, there's things that you just are so far ahead with that nobody could catch up. But I was just curious if there's some version of this that exists because there's obviously such a need and there has been for a long time.
Yeah.
One of the things is we have a lot of future plans, but there's a lot of churches, for instance, that have donation systems.
Yes.
And what we see is we can come in and replace that donation system and automate it so that they can just connect the donor directly to the food shelf
Exactly.
and not have to worry about
Or
collections.
be a middle person. Right.
Exactly.
So we tend to approach churches. We're approaching companies that actually do the same thing, which is there are a lot of companies that will say, if you donate to this thing on our website, we'll give so much back. And so
Very
we
nice.
want to put the same system inside of many other ways to feed the hungry.
That is fabulous. A question that I had in talking about Harvest Web with a couple of my friends recently is, would there ever be a time that there could be something in place for schools? So they have their food, they have their whole, menu for the month and all that, but there are some children that's all they get. So they'd love to know that there could be like a snack shelf or something
Interesting.
so that they could, and not make a big deal about it, but kind of slip, some popcorn to somebody.
Yeah. Well, since we have the foundation now,
Right,
this is
that's
just
it.
adding another app on this app.
Exactly,
Right.
another need.
Right. And we'd be happy to entertain any of those kind of really
Good.
neat
Okay.
things
Well,
that-
we can maybe connect on that afterwards. I'd
Right.
like to find out, and also with that, ask you, either one of you, maybe start with John. What are your plans as far as like when you say to go global? What does that look like to you?
Well, one of the nice things is in my business, I happen to be a global, I'm a CEO and I meet CEOs of all sorts of companies all over the world every day. And so it isn't hard for me to reach out to them, and I've already tried this, to talk about the concept and then to say to my friends, you're there in Switzerland, would you like to try one of these things out?
How perfect is that?
Because all
right?
it is a matter of transferring software code.
Sure.
Right? So the idea is that with my network to start with, we can get access to many different people that are running many different businesses across the U.S. and the globe. So I intend to use that network once we get this thing really running. because I don't want to
Wonderful.
get people involved unless it really works.
Right, right.
So we're doing pilots right now to figure out how many people will actually use this and do it and get all the bugs out.
So what was, kind of along those lines of what was the first aha moment of like, oh, wow, we didn't think about that? Was there one of those? I know in the failures leading up to this, but now that this is launched, have you had to do any tweaking now that it's live?
I would say that, our posture is we're very much in a learning mode. So any surprise that comes our way, we think that that's good.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
we're learning, if I can say it this way, what not to do.
Sure.
So we're kind of like an infant that's beginning to walk, and we fall and skin our nose, and we understand that maybe we don't want to do the stairs that way the next time.
Exactly.
But I don't think we've had too many gross disappointments.
Fabulous.
There was one thing that I bought with me from the semiconductor industry, and that was a principle that said, everything takes longer than you think it will.
Right. That is so true in general.
And that seems to be true here.
Very.
We have a couple exciting things. I don't want to get ahead of your questions, but I'm excited.
No, I have just one more, so you go right ahead.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
One of the things that we try to do is we try to look at our various customers. So our customers would include the people that donate. It would include the people that support. It would include the food pantry, but it would also include the client of the food pantry.
I
We
see.
try to reach that whole spectrum of people. And in doing so, we've developed a vision for a newsletter that we're going to call Nutrients.
Very nice. I
And
like
Nutrients is going to reach to that final end user, that final client at the food pantry. And the reason for that is that the real core issue is nutrition.
that. Exactly.
It's not can I get another bagel into you, it's can I get the
It's going
right
to
food
nourish
into
you
you.
for energy.
So speaking of volunteers, we had a volunteer come along who, in the course of speaking to her, she said, oh, and by the way, several years ago I went back to college and got a degree in nutrition.
Fabulous.
You got to understand that for a guy like
Oh,
me,
yeah, like dropping out.
Exactly. I'm like, thank you,
Yeah,
right?
right
And
from the ceiling. Thank you.
So it's wonderful to have those talent sets come our way. And we're looking forward to Nutrients really growing that area of our concern.
Right.
We also had another volunteer come our way that is expert in business process, or very competent in business process.
Wonderful.
And as you can imagine, we've grown this kind of by reaching here and reaching there and borrowing, John, can I have this, that kind of thing. So that person is going to help us document our business process. So when we go on to what John was speaking about a few minutes ago, of being able to duplicate this somewhere else, we can say, oh, by the way, not only do you do this, but here's how you do it. Here's best practices and that sort of thing.
Perfect. Right.
So we do
Turnkey.
feel, we're very much aware that meeting the needs of the needy is a universally agreed good thing. And so we approach it obviously from maybe a Christianity standpoint, but we kind of feel that we get some help along the way. Because
Sure.
these things sort of fall into line a lot better than we could ever figure out.
Very spiritual.
Well, exactly. When somebody comes in, 4 years ago I did,
I would be, yeah.
you just kind of like want to fall backward off your chair.
That's true. Very true.
And I should say one other thing about the team, because they're just wonderful people. I don't know how else to describe it. That sounds
And that's so
maybe
unique. I mean,
self-serving, but it's not.
No, and
They're
it's beautiful, and it ties into obviously community vitality and being
Right.
kind, loving, caring, and sharing at the
Exactly.
core of it, because it's you are genuinely enjoying this
right.
adventure with these people to do something so wonderful that who would have ever imagined would be happening.
Right,
So
exactly.
it's good on just so many levels.
It is.
So if somebody's watching right now, which
Yeah.
we know they are, what could and what should they do? Say they let's do a couple of scenarios. There's a person that has some funds that they would like to make a donation. Just really go right there, not even pick a pantry?
Yeah.
Could you
Yeah.
pick a pantry? Like say, I don't know that
Yep, you can.
Heinsberg doesn't have any food, but you might know that?
Well, there's those tools that I spoke to you about.
Oh, that's
but
true, that I
there's
would be able to,
also-
okay.
There's also a square called Contact Us.
Okay, so
So somebody could reach out and say, hey,
it
I'd
was
like
more
to
general,
do X.
where they just wanted you guys to have the money to be able to just say, okay, let's kind of sprinkle it over here and there,
Sure.
not just
Right.
all about that particular food shelf. Okay.
So that's one way, right?
Yes.
And another way would be, supposing there's a successful business person out there that would just love to start a charity to help feed the hungry, like I did, and they think about how much trouble that would be, or how do I do
where
it,
do
or
you
where
start?
would I start? That person would just have to call me, because that person would be a donator at a different level. It would be, how would you like to sort of be in charge of financing just a little marketing team, and we'll give you everything else. And so now they have this instant
Great
franchise,
model.
and they can name it whatever they want. So harvestweb.org is the platform, but they could name it the Reardon Food Shelf. They could name it anything
Right.
they want to.
Very interesting.
So they can put it in their name
Sure.
and run it the way they want to.
I
but
love
we
this.
are the platform to give away, and that's the way this thing expands. So I wanted to do it big, but I didn't want to just do a small local thing, because I saw how big this actually could be.
Oh, right. I mean, the opportunity is so obvious.
So 2 levels of donors. If anybody wants to
Right, and
start
then
their
if
own
they want to
charity, we have
volunteer,
that.
same type of thing, just kind of
Absolutely.
contact
Yep.
us. So
Yep.
then there's that. And then if somebody is, what would be another scenario that we could think of? If somebody has a food shelf, like I run a food shelf, I would go on there and I'd say, hey, you guys,
Yeah, exactly.
come on over and see me, Ken. type
Yeah,
of thing.
absolutely.
Okay.
I'd love a call like that.
Okay.
Or if you feel in your heart you just want to make a donation to feed somebody,
Right.
you can just, you're one click away from doing that now.
Right.
So
And this is all through credit card?
Yes.
Is it anything like Venmo? I mean, what should people be prepared to do? Is it just,
Right now, we're just credit cards.
Okay.
We're just Visa, MasterCard, and that
Okay.
sort of thing. Venmo's a great idea.
information there
Oh,
that
there it is.
is
Yeah,
scrolling it up.
that's
Oh,
our
wonderful.
form.
You
Yeah.
put it in one time and then you
it's
just,
saved? Good, good.
So it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. If you're used to, buying online, it's very much like
And
anything else.
do you have an option like for recurring where you could just say, oh, I want to do
yeah, that was the
20
first thing
minutes?
I did. Yeah,
Yeah, good. Yeah,
I
exactly.
just want to do it once and that's it.
should be done, yes.
Yeah,
That's fabulous.
We'd love that. We'd love to accept it in any way that you'd want to give it to us.
And we have some other really cool things in the back burner that once this gets established that we can keep adding technology to. And one of the, for instance, and one of the false starts we got is we wanted to kind of put an iPad in every food shelf. And if we put an iPad in every food shelf, it would have its own software. And therefore, when the person that was receiving the food wanted to say thank you, they could just literally say
Great
thank you
means of communication.
directly back
Yes,
to the
and
givers who
full
gave the
circle.
money.
Yes.
Right. So there's just all
That's a
sorts
nice
of ways
feature.
to
Very nice.
connect the givers with the people that
Right.
are receiving it.
Right,
And-
because both feel good,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And I thought this was going to be really needed 4 or 5 years ago. Right now, there are more people
Oh, yeah.
headed towards these food shelves because of inflation, the economy.
And mental illness and people that are
yeah.
not working and, it's
Yeah.
their lives have been turned upside down and this is the savior.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Well, we are approaching the end of our 30 minutes here, which I can't tell you how much I have enjoyed. I mean, as I said, I went to the website, so I was somewhat familiar, but just to hear a little bit more about the simplicity of it all, I just love the fact that, you can hop on there for many different reasons and still have a great outcome. So
absolutely.
this is community vitality, and the Jennifer Reardon Foundation is very proud that we were able to have you on and be our guest, because it means a lot to us to include great people in this process.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And please get involved.
Yeah,
Harvestweb.org,
Okay?
Yep. Come visit our website, say hi to us, send us a note, do whatever you'd like to
Perfect.
do. We'd love to hear from anyone.
Thank you.
Very approachable. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Oh, that was great.